What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are covering how to catch bass in muddy water. Muddy water bass fishing can be really intimidating, especially if you don't know the water clarity that the fishery that you're fishing typically is. So first thing to understand, don't confuse murky with muddy. Now, if you're on a fishery that's murky 12 months out of the year and there's no change in visibility, you can throw clear ghost types of colors. If you're on a fishery that typically has 15 feet of visibility, now all of a sudden you only have 5 or 6, it's gotten stained, it's gotten muddy, and that's where you're gonna have to adjust the baits and the presentations to catch those fish. So it all depends on the type of fishery you're fishing, your water clarity throughout the year. You know, a lot of times early spring, we've talked about it in the last few videos, you know, where the fish are going, how they're transitioning, you know, some of our favorite baits to catch them this time of the year. But what happens when all of a sudden you get a spring storm and your visibility goes from 6 feet to 12 inches? That's where we're talking about today. That's where you need to make adjustments to your colors, adjustments to your baits, and you guys can still catch fish. Let's let this boat run by real quick and then we'll keep going. All right, so understanding murky, understanding mud, totally depends on the water clarity that your fishery normally is. Now, you get that spring storm, those fish are gonna, it's almost like a fast forward the process of pre-spawn. They're gonna go straight to the back, straight to that moving water. So if you're trying to fish those secondary points from the main lake point, you're gonna work your way back to find those fish. If there is running water, they're in the back, you need to go there first and then work your way back. That moving water, murky, muddy, adjust your baits accordingly. Now, if you are on a lake that is rising, got a lot of fresh water coming in, that water level's coming up, those fish are gonna be right up in inches of water, their nose in that current, waiting for new stuff to come down and they can eat. If that is the case, go with a jig, a big, heavy flipping jig, especially if there's cover near. If there's a laydown, if there's a dock piling or something in the water those fish are gonna sit against, that is where I'm starting off with a flipping stick and a big, heavy flipping jig. Now, I'm typically throwing some kind of trailer that has a lot of movement. Now, I want these fish to be able to see that bait in that muddy water, right? So I'm gonna go with a bait color selection that has a lot of blue flake in it, real contrasty bait. I don't know if you guys can see that now that we're kind of shaded behind this this ridge top, but that is a real dark, big profile jig with a little bit of flash in there, some black and blue flash in there. Now, I'm not going over, you know, I'm not going crazy on the flash, but a flipping jig, if you can get in that current, find those little current seams, if you're in a fishery that's got that much moving water, fish those laydowns, fish those stumps, those fish are gonna be in the current breaks, and that jig is money. Same situation. Now you want to throw a moving bait. Typically, I go with bright colors. Again, we're talking about water clarity that these fish aren't used to. So if it's muddy and those fish are up super shallow, be careful, be quiet on the trolling motor, be careful and quiet on your boat, your lids to your rod lockers, what have you. Make sure that you are quiet, because those fish, you know, they went to the back, they're super shallow. A lot of times with that water level rising and they're in the very backs, they get kind of skittish. So Be very cognizant of your movements and your boat positioning and how loud you are on the boat. The next bait, if there is active current coming in and that lake is rising, I'm gonna go spinnerbait. Something like this guy right here. I actually grabbed 2 different spinnerbaits for you. Again, I'll link everything down below in the video description. But again, you can see kind of a white chartreusey color and then an actual chartreuse. I have both willow blades on there, silver and gold. You know, if it's really, truly chocolate milk and it's muddy, go with painted blades, either white or chartreuse. But typically, I like to go a combination, gold and silver. And then on my bait with my trailer, I'll add enough color if I need to. I either go white or chartreuse to give that bait enough contrast in that stained or muddy water that those fish can find it. But again, that vibration of the spinnerbait lets those fish feel it with their lateral line, and a spinnerbait is really, really hard to beat in that moving, muddy water. Now, with that said, if that water that's coming in is muddy and cold, I stay away from that. I don't like fishing. Now, there might be guys, that's just my opinion, there might be guys that love fishing muddy, cold water. I absolutely hate it. I think that is the worst scenario. I don't mind fishing muddy water as long as it's warm and it's fresh coming in, but I do not want to fish colder than lake temp muddy water. So we talked about the spinnerbait. Another bait that really shines that I like to throw in those conditions is going to be the swim jig. So it's kind of my 1-2 punch. Either the spinnerbait or the swim jig. Now, what I like about the swim jig, you see here, this is that California swim jig. It's got that no jack hook in it. I mean, you cannot bend this thing out. So pair that up with that. That's the Largo shad, the 4-inch. And then right here, same deal, and I have that paired up. That's actually Matt's favorite. That is the D-Walker. Very resilient, very strong trailer. But I like to throw the swim jig if I'm fishing around laydowns, that sort of stuff. Now, it doesn't always have to be moving water. Say the storm has passed and now the water level is kind of just staying the same. Those fish are gonna spread out along the flat, right? They're not gonna be up in that current, up in inches of water. They're gonna spread out along. Say there's some laydown, say there's some structure that you can actually fish, some cover, dock pilings, laydowns, whatever it may be. That's where that swim jig really comes to shine with that big no jack hook. It's got that weed guard on there that helps keep those fish pinned. But this is something that I can throw right into that cover, right into that laydown and bring that thing out. I can fish it right through the stuff. Got that real strong weed guard on there. Again, that no jack hook. I can hit them hard. You know, you can even throw this on straight braid if you need to, but you can hit them hard and get them out. But that bright color, those 2 trailers are awesome if you're fishing in and through that cover. Now, given that scenario, so we talked a little bit about the moving water, those fish being right up in the inches of water as it's coming in. Switch the scenario. Now, like I said, the lake has the storm's passed, the lake is staying level, it's not receding. If it's receding, those fish are going to back out, they're going to come out and suspend. But if it's just staying constant, but it's still muddy, still chocolate milk, those fish are going to disperse across the bay, right? They're not going to be right there where that water's coming in. They're going to spread out. So that's when I really like throwing a square bill, a lipless crank, or the chatterbait. So let's talk about the lipless because it shines. They all shine in both categories. If there's current coming in, those fish are up shallow. I really like throwing the square bill over the lipless because it deflects better. But let's just talk about the lipless, then we'll do square bill, then we'll do chatterbait. So the lipless. You guys know how much we love throwing the lipless crank. You guys know how much we love the LV500. In a recent video, I talked about some different lipless crankbaits and ones that shine when you're not necessarily doing the hopping technique. So I have a couple different ones for you. This is the Damiki trimmer. Again, I apologize for the shade, guys. And that is the 13 Fishing Magic Man. That's the 65 size. Really loud bait. Again, when you're fishing muddy water, you do not want to go silent unless you have a real big presentation like the swim jig, you know, that 6-inch presentation with that skirt pulsing, just a lot of movement in the water. You typically want to go with something with some sound. So that Damiki trimmer and that 13 Fishing Magic Man 65. The reason I like these two is they are light and loud. So even if I'm in that situation where those fish are coming in with that moving water, I can throw this all the way up there and bring it back. And now I'm not doing the hopping technique. I'm throwing it out there and I'm reeling it back. I want this thing just swimming and just vibrating by. Give those fish something to hear and feel in that muddy water. And now if those fish have kind of changed the scenario up again on you, if the current has stopped and those fish are spread out along that flat, now you can go with that hopping technique. You can go with that LV500, has that faller, that heavier, quicker fall, and that is where that bait shines. But those three, you can go with your chartreuses, you can go with your whites, and go with your bright reds, your crop patterns. Those are the best three colors for me that work in the muddy or the murky stained water. Next up is going to be the square bill. Again, both situations. Let's talk about the first situation first, the current situation first. You have that moving water. Those fish are up there super shallow. Maybe you're on a current break where the current's wrapping around a laydown or something. That is where I'm going to go with the square bill. Now I have a couple different square bills for you. This guy right here, this is the OG Slim 4. This is a silent bait. It's a balsa bait, but high float and deadly this time of the year. This is an awesome, awesome bait. Comes in some really cool colors. Again, I'm going this time of the year in the mud water, I'm going either chartreuse or white or red. But that guy right there, another one for you. This is the little brat, not the little brat, the brat. That is a super shallow bait, less than 2 feet of water. Again, those fish are up there in that current. They got their nose in that current, and you want to bring something down by them really quickly. This little guy right there, again, a silent bait. The biggie, got a knocker in it. And then the loudest of them all, the scamp. I have two different colors for you, chartreuse and a craw pattern. Hear how loud that bait is? I mean, they're super loud. So in the category, that scamp is going to be my favorite to start off with. You know, if I feel those fish are spooky, maybe they're not used to being shallow, that water's starting to clear up a little bit, that's where you want to make those adjustments and go less bold. That's where instead of throwing your chartreuses and your bright reds, now you go back to a shad pattern, you know, something like that. But if I feel like those fish are skittish, getting a little spooky with that real loud sound, that's where I'll go with those balsa baits, like I showed you in the beginning, the OG 4, Slim 4, and then the Brat. But a square bill works amazing. Certain situations it works better than the lipless, because the lipless you can get hung up. A lot of times with the square bill, it's going to deflect, or if you get hung up, you can give it slack and that thing will float up and back out of the snag. That way you don't have to go up and spook those fish as you try to get your bait hung, unhung, or you got to break off. The last bait that I want to talk to you guys about is going to be the chatterbait. You know, go with your bold colors, your fire craws. Go with your shad patterns if that water is a little bit clearer as it starts to clear up from that storm. Or go with your bright whites, your chartreuses. A lot of fish this time of the year are caught on just all white chatterbaits, so give that a shot, guys. The chatterbait works really well. It deflects just like the square bill, and just gives that fish more and more vibration to really feel it with its lateral line and track that bait down in the ultra murky or muddy water. So hopefully that helps you guys, because I'm almost positive you will run across that situation or that scenario sometime through this spring transition. You know, Doesn't matter if on the West Coast, down south, up north, Midwest, you get those late spring, early spring storms, and a lot of times that brings that moving water into your fishery and murks up or muddies up your fishery and just really reduces that visibility. So hopefully those baits will give you confidence. Again, if it's muddy, it's way dirtier than it normally is, go louder, go brighter, and you guys will catch fish. As that water clarity gets better, start backtracking and go more of your natural colors, your ghost minnows, that sort of stuff, and you still can catch fish, especially this time of the year. Guys, if you have any questions, please leave those down below in the comment section. I will try to get to those as soon as possible. All these baits, the different scenarios, the gear, all that stuff, I'll link down below in the video description, so you guys don't have to take notes and everything. You can just click on the links, see the pictures, and figure out the baits that you want. Definitely get yourself a couple different chartreuses, a couple different whites or reds, and you guys will be covered given this circumstance, or next time you find yourself in this circumstance out on the water. As always, guys, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon, guys. Have a good one.